Right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our third Center for Endangered Languages, Cultures and Ecosystems poetry event. The theme is light. We have a great program for you. Poets from Africa, Asia, Europe, South America, the Caribbean. 2 presentations will involve poets who are collaborating with visual artists. Down, we're going on an aerial journey. We're going south to north and east to west. So we're starting in Africa, in Uganda, with Mercy Geno. Sadly, she's been called away, but we have a video recording. She's the furthest south, but also because it's her birthday. So without any more ado, Mercy's poem tells us that there's, as well as external light, there's also kind of inner light, interior light, as I think you'll see. So Mercy Geno Apachi.
Hello, my name is Mercy, and I'm a poet from Uganda, and I'm performing, my piece is called It's Time to Be Bold. It's time to be bold. In each and every one of us, there is a weight on our shoulders, a time where surviving becomes an uphill struggle, over and over pushing the boulder, but be bold now is not the time to fold. It's time to be bold. See, nobody prepares you to be swung into adulthood. No time to compromise, no rehearse, but you have been groomed. The applications you have penned, the taxes you have paid, the poisons you have sipped, and the lies you have kissed. Now is not the time to fold, but be bold. It's time to be bold beyond the proverbial life hierarchies, to push past the confines of your introvert and grab opportunities. It's time to be bold beyond the lenses of physical disabilities, to unlearn the textbook and apply practical realities and glorify personal initiatives. Look, it's time to be bold beyond swing chairs and office desks, to loosen that tie and get that idea off your chest, woman. It's time to be bold beyond the status quo, to let go of that quid pro quo and stand tall on your own. Listen, I don't doubt that you will get there, to a greatness beyond, to that point where you are content with yourself, where you will take a compliment with grace and not wonder anymore if you really are as beautiful as they say you are, and as skilled as they say you are, and as good at your job as they say you are. And you will get to a point where you will believe it once and for all when the person you love tells you, I love you. You will surely get there. But now is the time to be bold. Thank you.
Wonderful, Mercy. Thank you so much. So, moving on. Mercy's not here, I take it. I can't see Mercy. So, yeah, we're moving on. And Jordan, you are here. Jordan.
Yes.
Hi, Jordan.
Yes.
Jordan, also from Uganda.
The link to my video, I think you have it.
Yeah.
I sent it to. All right, thank you very much.
Andrea. Yeah.
So how did you come to this? He called you his miss, gave you your first kiss, took you on a journey to bliss. Now your face his punches never miss.
That needs to be back to the beginning.
You come to this. So how did you come to this? He called you his miss, gave you your first kiss, took you on a journey to bliss. Now your face his punches never miss. How did you come to this? What changed? How did he become so deranged? Did he blame it on your uncharacteristic out-of-turn style of talking, walking out while he is talking? Now his calls you're blocking, your calls he's talking, on his love you're choking, your food he's never eating, because your body he's busy beating. You suspect he's cheating with that long-haired, yellow-skinned, short-skirted secretary he be calling and talking too while in your bathroom, but he doesn't know you be listening. Or does he? Ng'omoloke, mara wudo dohomupoke, kau tiking dano wachi itsoke, ento kau doggan, unyote, chechatuka, kumwagalwa woluka. Takyasula mu masuuka olw'enkyukakyuka amaaso gamyuka wayingira ng'otuuka to a place you thought you'd never be. Now you are everything you said you'd never be. What changed?
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you. There is time. Do you have another poem for us you'd like us to read? Jordan, you're welcome if you have one. If not.
Yes, thank you very much, Andrea. So this poem that I had written, I just thought maybe we would discuss it over the next few minutes, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. So I wrote this poem. I was inspired by two things. One, the aspect of light. Hold on, let me just put on.
Anthea, you should be able to.
Yes, hello?
Yeah.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, you're on.
All right.
We can hear you.
All right. So, yes, I just wanted to place on my video. I hope I am visible also. Yes, hi everyone. So the poem that I just recited in that video is called What Changed? Now, I had two inspirations for this poem. One is our theme for today's workshop, which is light. Now, many times when we enter into marriages or when people get married, they are full of light and full of hope for what the marriage is going to entail and what's going to happen in the marriage. But sometimes, as we have seen, there are cases that rise up during the marriage, cases of domestic violence, gender-based violence. So I thought of merging the two themes, gender-based violence and light, that now in this particular poem, I am sort of taking the position of a counselor, and I am talking to both the married people, to the husband, and then also to the wife. So the wife, say, has brought her husband, and now, so I look at what exactly changed, what removed the light. Oh, sorry for that, for this call. So in this particular poem, I'm trying to ask the married couple, what you entered with a lot of light, what changed, what removed out that light? So I am trying to take them on a journey of finding out what was the cause of this gender-based violence, and then also drawing a light onto society, that what exactly causes domestic violence, what exactly causes gender-based violence? Is it the problem of the lady? Is it the problem of the gentleman? You know, what exactly causes this? So that is what I was trying to address in this poem. I kept it short because I wanted it to really be as rhetorical as possible. But yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I call on Amita now to read? Welcome, Amita.
I have a link for her poem. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if she's free, but it's set to be available in 15 minutes. So I have sent her a WhatsApp to see if she can move it, but I don't know if we can go to the next
Well,
one.
let's go to Moulud and Limam. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to have to one little detail. Limam, Moulud, vamos a empezar ahora. We're going to have a reading in Spanish, well, a video prepared by Moulud. This is a partnership between an artist, poet, Moulud Yeslem, and Limam Boicha. So we're going to start with the video. But Moulud, Limam, ¿quieres decir algo a los compañeros?
Yo creo que empezaría el imán mejor, ¿no?
Sí, Limam. ¿Quieres decir unas palabras o vamos al video? Moulud.
Bueno, pues gracias a todos. Sin duda, esto es una jaima de la poesía que estáis montando. La habéis montado con o sea, jaimas donde una parte está en América Latina, otra en África y otra a través de la poesía, pro mundo real, dando unos toques, digamos, para que la vida sea más fácil, la comunicación sea más fácil y demás. Muchas gracias.
So what Moulud is saying is that his poem, the theme of their presentation is the chaima, the nomadic tent. And he's saying that this is like a poetry chaima. We're all in the tent together, even from Africa, from America, from Asia. And he hopes that this will transfer somehow into the world, the real world. So yeah, thank you. Gracias, Moulud. Vamos al video de Moulud. Un encanto, te aviso, un encanto. Okay, the video. If you can stay on that image. Now, Limam is going to read a poem on the theme of Khaima, the nomadic tent. Limam.
Ajá. Khaima. Al vislumbrar en la imponente profundidad de la llanura un débil resplandor de mar o de niebla, y si en el cielo veo un ondular blanco refulgente o quizás rojo y fosco, mi alma se imanta. Siguiendo su estela advierto una cresta ingrávida en el aire, azul ligera lava y se vuelve ola y aparece, desaparece y me impaciento. Una vibración telúrica recorre mis huesos y aviva mi sangre. En medio de la grandeza de la planicie contengo el paso del aire y cavilo. Era un relámpago de ensueño, pero la ola o la cresta se eleva y rompe sobre una acacia y de nuevo un golpe sonoro, vestigio de memoria o latido de lluvia, me revela nítido una jaima, cuánta dulzura, y más allá otra y otra. Frente al espacioso habitáculo una llama brota y la leña imperceptible y seca restalla. El humo azulado orilla la vista de unos hermosos ojos y se eleva en un suspiro y desvanece. La sempiterna arena acaricia los pies, a la vista las huellas inconfundibles de la majada, y en los contornos de la duna corretean niños desbordando alegría. El antiquísimo torrente de la vida palpita en la raíz de una jaima y solo entonces el universo está en orden.
Khaima. On glimpsing in the deep splendor of the plain, a slight radiance, a sea of mist, a sea or of mist. And if in the sky I see a shining ripple, white or perhaps dark and red, it draws my soul. Following its trail, I notice on the air a weightless crest, blue, light, winged, that turns into a wave, appearing and disappearing, and I grow impatient. Up out of the earth, a vibration spreads through my bones and quickens my blood. In the midst of the plain's grandeur, I contain within me the footstep of the breeze and wonder. Did I daydream lightning? But the wave or its crest rises up and breaks over an acacia. And once more a loud blow, a vestige out of memory, or a beating of rain, clearly reveals to me a khaima. What sweetness! And further off, another and another. Outside the spacious dwelling, a flame sprouts, and firewood, dry, invisible, crackles. Bluish smoke draws the sight of beautiful eyes, drifts up in a sigh and disperses. The everlasting sand strokes my feet at the sight of the unmistakable traces of the animal pen. And over the contours of the dune, children scamper, overflowing with happiness. The most ancient torrent of life beats in the root of the khaima, and then, only then, is the universe in order.
Khaima es la palabra más sustanciosa en el Kitab, el libro oral sahraoui. Una palabra que no solamente se refiere a la tienda de campaña, el habitáculo tradicional de los nómadas, hecho de pelo, de cabra o dromedario. No solo es la casa donde vive, come, duerme, reza y se reúne la familia sahraoui. Es mucho más que eso.
Khaima is the most substantial word in the Kitab, the oral book of the Sahraoui. A word that doesn't just refer to the tent, the traditional dwelling of the nomad made of goat or dromedary skin. It is not just the place where the Sahraoui family lives, eats, sleeps, prays, and gathers together. It is much more than that.
La palabra Khaima rebasa la definición del concepto que la encierra en un espacio físico de tejido, mástiles y tirantes. Por antonomasia está abierta al espacio que la circunda y a quien busca cobijo en ella, porque Khaima significa unión y por tanto es casi sinónimo de familia, y a la vez es la sombra donde se resguarda la sabiduría, la idiosincrasia. Es todo eso, pero también es el lugar al que se va, es la metáfora de la anhelada patria.
The word chaima goes beyond the concept that encloses it as a physical space made up of material, tent poles and guy ropes. It is characteristically open to the space that surrounds it and to anyone who seeks shelter in it. Because chaima means coming together, and as such is almost synonymous with family, and at the same time the shade that protects wisdom, idiosyncrasy. It is all that, but is also the place you go to. It is the metaphor of a longed-for homeland.
Esa patria anhelada empieza en las manos que esquilan las ovejas y dromedarios, en los dedos que cargan el pelo seleccionado, en los que hilan y con infinita paciencia cosen y vuelven a coser y juntan los paños hasta completar la jaima.
This longed-for homeland begins in the hands that shear the sheep and dromedaries, in the fingers that comb the chosen skin, in those who thread and with infinite patience sew and sew again, adding lengths of material till the chaima is completed.
De este trabajo laborioso se han encargado siempre las mujeres, y quizás jaima no podía ser más que una palabra femenina, y cualquier saharaui, cuando se iba a casar, era ayudada por las mujeres del FRIC a construir y levantar su propia jaima.
This painstaking work has always been entrusted to women, and perhaps this is why the chaima could only be a feminine word. And every Sahraoui woman, when she was going to get married, was helped by the women of the FRIC to build and erect her own chaima.
La palabra casar viene de casa, y como dice el proverbio castellano, quien se casa, casa quiere. Parodiando el dicho, se podría decir que también en el Sahara, quien lehi yitchayyem, jaima quiere.
The Spanish word casar, to marry, comes from casa, house. And as the Spanish proverb says, quien se casa, casa quiere. The one who gets married wants a house. Adapting the saying, one could also say that in the Sahara, lahi itchayyam, who wants to marry, wants a chaima.
El casamiento se considera un rito tan trascendental que la persona, una vez consumado el acto, se considera que ha cumplido con la mitad de lo que le exige el Deane, la religión.
Marriage is considered such a transcendent ritual that a person, on having consummated the act, considers that they have achieved half of the requirements of a Deane, religion.
Quien va a unirse en matrimonio anuncia que va a hacer su jaima. El sustantivo de jaima se verbaliza y se transforma en acción de lehin tchayyam, me voy a casar. Ella tchaymet, ella se casó. Huwa tchayyam, él se casó. Jaimó, lo casaron. Jaimuha, la casaron. Todas esas expresiones derivan de la raíz jaima. Hay mucho más.
Someone who is going to get married announces that they're going to make their chaima. Chaima as a noun turns into a verb and is transformed into the action of lahi netchayyam, I'm getting married. Hiya tchaymet, she got married. Huwa tchayyam, he got married. Chaimu, they married him. Chaimuha, they married her. All these expressions derive from the root chaima. There are many more.
Hay otros tipos de jaimas, las que se emplazan para las ocasiones especiales, como jaimet rag, que expresamente es para la boda, o jaimet lesem, para celebrar la elección del nombre recién nacido. Está también la jaima para el merhaba o marhaban, para dar la bienvenida, que se prepara para recibir a un ser querido después de una larga ausencia o alguna personalidad de mucho prestigio. En todas estas jaimas, el ambiente es alegre, contagioso y repleto de música y comida, de henna y perfume, de regalos y sonrisas.
There are other kinds of chaima, those that are put up for special occasions, such as chaimet rag, which is intended specifically for weddings, or Chaimet Lesn, to celebrate choosing a name for a newborn. There is also a tent for the Marhaba or the Marhaban, used to welcome, which is got ready to receive a loved person after a long absence, or some very prestigious person. In all these chaimas, there is an atmosphere of joy, which is contagious, full of music and food, of henna and perfume, of gifts and smiles. So thank you for this gift. Es un regalo para nosotros, Limam y Moulud. It's a wonderful gift, what you've given us. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, and later we'll be able to talk a little bit more with I think sadly Moulud has to go, but Limam, you'll be with us. I think más tarde estarás con nosotros, no? Vale.
Oh.
So, Mercy is with us now, and we're going to invite Mercy to talk to us about her poem.
Oh, hi people. I
Hi.
hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
I just want to show you a little bit of where I am. I am somewhere in a village, if you can see.
Yes.
Yeah. So I
Wow.
thought that I was going to be able to present and be here, but then my supervisor had other ideas in her head. She woke me as early as 6 a.m. and said, hey, we're going to the field. So sorry again. But my piece, I understand it was played already. Time to be bold.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I initially wanted to write about clouds. I love clouds. I wanted to write about it, how it looks like in the dry season in northern Uganda, where I'm from. But then it has been a long birthday week for me, and I kept thinking about our nature as human beings and as young people here in Uganda. Uganda is a country of mostly young people. The young population is higher. About 70% of us are young, and it's hard to get employment. That's one of the biggest issues that we have here in Uganda. So I am one of those people that have battled as a young person, being an artist, doing poetry. It's a bit hard. It's a bit hard. And there's so many things that we go through as young people that lead to depression or anxieties and things like that. And I decided, you know what? It's your day this week. So inspire yourself and inspire anybody that would like to be inspired. So I wrote Time to Be Some Sense to the Nature bit of the poetry event that we are on right now. Yes, so if anybody had questions anywhere, I would be glad to answer. That is the origin of where I got the piece from.
That's wonderful, Mercy. Thank you so much for joining us. And maybe we can all unmute and wish Mercy happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Mercy.
Happy birthday to you.
Wow. Amazing.
Thank you.
Blessings. Blessings.
Happy birthday, Mercy.
Thank you.
So we have time if anybody wants to ask Mercy something about her poem or where she is. I mean, I'm fascinated. You know, you've really brought the world into our tent. So yeah.
Well, we have no doubts you're achieving what your poem says.
True.
Hey, it looks like that anyway, so thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Mercy. I was just drawn to the whole idea of boldness, being bold as a form of light, as you know, as a source of light, being bold, courage, you know, so beautifully expressed. And happy birthday.
Thank you, Linda. That was what the poem was about, the light. Thank you so much for understanding it.
Anyone else? Otherwise, maybe we can move on. Can you stay with us for a bit, Mercy, or do you have to get back to work?
No, I'm here with you. I'm here with you.
Wonderful. Well, can I then invite, before that, we're going to have a discussion, but can I invite Julie? Can you do your poems for us, present your poems, Julie?
All right, it's more or less 10 minutes. So do you have time, or do you prefer just moving on to the discussion? It's 10 minutes long, more or less. I don't know.
Perfect.
Okay.
No problem.
Great, I'm going to share my screen, if it's okay with you, so people can read the poems. So the first part of my reading is very literal. So I picked up poems which deal with light because I lived in Britain, Ireland, Italy, southern France and northern France, and European country. It's really difficult to spend winters in Northern Europe, really, and I've felt it a lot. So my first poems deal with the lack of light, actually. Then the first poem takes place in Paris. Only the unemployed have time to watch the snow falling. 1. The Parisian sky is a cashmere jumper, pearled and pilling. I go to the Champs-Élysées like a tourist. A perfect showcase of French elegance. I wear high-heel boots but slip in the slush. On Place de la Concorde, the Egyptian obelisk is a stalagmite missing its native country. I am no longer welcome in mine. 2. The sky is scratching its scalp. My balcony becomes its shoulder. My tulle curtains frame a miniaturized scene. I'm the spectator of my own life, the prisoner of a snow globe an unknown power shakes. Snow is a slow process. Melted drops from the slate roofs drum the military rhythm of Ravel's Bolero. Only the unemployed have time to watch the snow falling. So the next one is about Venice and also how the light affects the water, which I find is really beautiful. 3 other ways to look at Venice. 1. The morning mist covers the alabaster Persian palace with Mudhar windows. Piazza San Marco is a souk pierced by a campanile with a pointed pyramid. The Byzantine basilica resembles the Arabian Nights and Cinderella's castle, an eclectic Alibaba's den. While you order your Turkish coffee, I recall Granada's walls above the gondolas. 2. The light is different here, granulated. The firmament's filtered. The ivory buildings where seagulls merge mirror their pallor. Waves shatter on the pile's candy canes, and the familiar effluvia swell. The crowded wooden bridge to the Academia looks like Da Vinci's flying machine. The narrow streets are cutthroats. The mask of Goldoni's characters and Picasso's unstructured harlequin can be found in any craftsman shop. Locals depicted by Longhi are rare. Tintoretto shades of indigo, Veronese's water green, and Tiepolo's salmon pink are dabbed all over the town's palette. Yet it is your eyes which epitomize the lagoon. 3. The skiff's motors awoke us instead of car traffic. We wanted to eat Shylock's cicchetti for our 2nd anniversary in the Jewish ghetto, a succession of stacked Rubik's cubes. We had lunch in front of buoyant buses and taxis along Canaregio's quays, the picturesque canal copying Bayonne's. For our departure, the lagoon mingled with the sky, the railway reached the world's edge, the deadly waterfall. The earth was flat again. On painting an Irish seaside resort. To render this picturesque landscape, one needs to capture its second color. The sun's silver tatters on the surface of the sea where sails slide like shark fins, the seals, sea lions, and Selkie's slimy skin, the abandoned abbey built by Sihtric the Viking king, the wagtail swaying on slate roofs, the color of quicksilver, or a Chinese wash painting with an Indian ink. So, since I'm Basque, and this is the Center for Endangered Cultures and Languages, I thought I would pick up this one because there's also an anecdote with light. So this is Ilargi Amandre. The word for moon in Basque, Ilargi, means light of the dead. Here, people still address their prayers to Ilargi Amandre, Grandmother Moon, as she shines on the soul of the dead and cradles them into her kingdom. All the Manis light Viargi Sayola every Sunday at Mass to honor their ancestors. They're not allowed to do it on graves any longer. O Ilargi Amandre, hear my prayers. Where can the dead take root when the earth they rest in is wrecked? After the Spanish Civil War, cemeteries became a litter of fallen dominoes. Francoist ordered all tombstone written in Basque to be destroyed. Speaking it in public was punishable, and Basque languages books were forbidden for decades, so a whole generation saw it quenched. Ilargi amandre, how can a language survive when the dead are deprived of a name and the living have amnesia? So the second part of this reading is more metaphorical. So I like last year during lockdowns, I was writing a lot about my ancestors, and I wanted to find something positive to write about, a bit like mercy, you know. So I wanted to write about light, but in the sense of, you know, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and resilience. And this poem in particular has been placed in a competition, and the theme was resilience. I thought, yes, there are always positive things, even in dark times like war. So this is Krieg. Despite his wooden leg, my great-grandfather always volunteered to climb up trees and pluck cherries or chestnuts. He was the most agile of the family, as light as a sparrow. During the Second War, he was the one hiding the legs of ham in the forest by hanging them on the highest trees so the Germans wouldn't confiscate them. My great-grandfather was the only one in the village who received a newspaper every day. He paid for the subscription when his veteran disability pension. When the gangrene spread and his leg was cut off for the second time, my great-grandfather begged the surgeon not to amputate it too high. He was a farmer, and no woman would want to marry an invalid. I found his file in the military archives. The army officer wrote after the amputation, leg cut 2/3 high, can't stand the equipment, imaginary pain of the amputee. After the Great War, my great-grandfather inherited the family farm at the top of a steep hill, a barren plot of land, a Basque wuthering heights nobody wanted, let alone someone with a missing leg. The region was occupied during the Second War. One summer, my great-grandfather and his son moved their cattle to higher pastures for the transhumance. They reached a point where the Germans blocked the road. As his son was trying to negotiate their passage, the middle-aged officer pointed at his leg and uttered, Krieg? My great-grandfather didn't speak a word of German, and the other officer didn't speak a word of French, so he repeated several times, Krieg, Krieg. The officer's face lit up. He gestured towards the wooden leg, patted his own chest, Krieg, Krieg, Krieg. A magic word my great-grandfather deciphered in the German's eyes and translated as, yes, I was there too 30 years ago. I was buried alive, they dug me up. My friends are still eating cornflower roots. I lost my job, my fiancée too. My great-grandfather hesitated, then finally nodded. The officer barked orders at the soldiers, who let my great-grandfather and his son pass with their cattle to let them graze in peace. So many Basque emigrated to America, particularly South America, in the late 19th, early 20th century. So this is a poem still about this same great-grandfather. Their common language. When my great-grandparents wanted to communicate without being understood by their 5 children who could speak French and Basque, they switched to Spanish, moved 6,000 miles away, 20 years earlier, back to Buenos Aires. My great-grandmother had to follow her homesick parents back to France. She lost her country and her freedom. My great-grandfather left when he was drafted for the Great War. He lost a country and a leg. What were they saying to each other in Spanish? Did they resurrect a life that was never meant to be? Finally, my last poem for today's reading. So this is again about, seeing the positive side of things and people not always being just dark or light. America Noa. My godfather owned several hotels in Buenos Aires, but he returned to the Basque Country every year to fish with my father, his favorite nephew. When my sister and I married, he sent each of us a purse filled with gold Mexican pesos. I used it to pay for the children's college fees when my husband lost his job. My godfather was single, so he spoiled us. We didn't know it at the time, but he had disowned an illegitimate daughter in Argentina. My godfather was a thug with Hemingway looks and a cigarette glued to his mouth. I remember the brightness of his shoes, their heady smell and smooth tanning, the superior leather of gaucho-kept cows. He carried a dagger with him, just in case. Every time I wanted to see his silver facon, he made me sit on his knees to brush its chisel sheath. We never knew the details, but he had killed a man. We like to imagine a heroic act. He had stepped in to stop the fight and had to defend himself. When he was fishing, the children from our village approached him with reverence, as if he were a Basayan who caught kids in his dragnets. They followed him to our house, whispering his nickname behind his back, Americanoa, the American. During the war, when Papa was deported to Eastern Europe, my godfather chartered a boat full of goods. We don't know how he managed to get it past the Atlantic Wall and moor it in Bordeaux harbor, if he bribed someone to dispatch its contents down south and avoid German soldiers. We know he sent pairs of leather shoes for all the village children, patches of hope from the Pampas. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Julie. So now we're going to move into a discussion, and after that we'll have a 10-minute break and then the second part of our program. So can I hand over to Janet, who will lead us in our discussion and commentary.
Thank you very much. We've heard some absolutely fantastic poems. I love, Julie, I just love the poems that you've just read. And this idea that boldness is associated with light, that Mercy came up with. Jordan's How Did It Come to This, where he's talking about marriage and the promises and how that then descended into domestic abuse and violence. And I love the multimodal presentation by Limam and Moulud. And Mike, your translation was, I presume it's your translation, that was amazing. Perhaps we could, talk about light and this idea. I like the idea of the chayma and how we're all in the chayma, and that's offering a shelter. Some of the alliteration that I saw in some of Julie's poems, I can't remember which one it was, but where you had the sun's silver tatters on the surface, and how you managed to read that with all that alliteration around S, I don't know. I would have found it really difficult. So perhaps we could just open the discussion.
I think Ekiwah has a question, or you raise your hand, Ekiwah, yeah? Or maybe you're just raising your hand. No?
You're muted.
Mute, you're mute, Ekiwah.
Unmute yourself, yeah.
No, I was just raising my hands in the spirit of the Haima of poetry, no particular question.
Yeah.
No problem.
I think light is a wonderful theme that can be approached from all different angles. So thank you very much, Linda, for suggesting that theme, because you've got light as an end point, light being replaced, the light of marriage, the light of hope being replaced by something far darker, and the crenellated light that Julie has in her poems, and the video showing were being read was fantastic. One of the things that Limam was talking about was how Kasar and Kasa are related, and how Chayma and Chayam are related. And I thought that was really interesting. It's sort of taking us a bit away from the light image, but one of the languages that I work with, Fika, is a blanket or a covering, and the root is used to cover oneself, but also to get married. So it's the same type of image, to cover, to shelter, to protect.
Mike, ¿puedes otra vez?
See, there are other people who speak Spanish better than I do.
No, solo si hay una pregunta hacia mí para explicárselo. Si Jean está dirigido una pregunta a mí o no.
Sí, claro.
¿Cuál es la pregunta que no la entendí?
What's the question?
What was my question?
No, es que te escuché hablando de nosotros, pero no sabía si me dirigías una pregunta.
Can you just repeat what you said about the Limam and Moulud's presentation, and we can translate it? Somebody, Rob can, or Ekiwah will translate it into Spanish.
Yeah, I hadn't realized. I speak a very little bit of Spanish, but I hadn't realized how Casa and Casar were related, and then how that you've got Khaima and Khayam. That they're obvious, and I was just saying that in Mehri, which is a Semitic language, an endangered Semitic language, you have the term fika, which means cover or blanket, and the term fko, which means to marry someone. Shafkaut is she got married, from the same root, fkawa.
Que no se daba cuenta como casa y casar estaban relacionados, y que en idioma, what language again?
Mehri. I'll write it in the chat.
Está vinculado el casarse con una manta, cobija. Tiene la misma raíz, cobija y cobijar y casarse.
Si hay una pregunta, algo en específico.
But did you have a question for Limam?
No, it was just an observation, and I was thinking, what do other languages do? How many other languages relate the idea of shelter and house with marriage?
Y está preguntándose cuántas otras lenguas podrían relacionar esta idea de la casa con el casarse en términos etimológicos de la palabra.
Probablemente solo hay que buscar. Nosotros en Hassanía, la misma palabra jaima deriva de muchos verbos, ¿no? Relacionados con casar, con jaima, pero seguramente en otras lenguas podría haber casos iguales.
That same root would exist between the house and the marriage.
Yeah.
I learned another derivation of Khaima. I was at a reading of a Palestinian poet in Glasgow. And he talked about having been brought up in a mukhayyam, in a como los Sahraoui. Los Sahrawis, no sé, it's not well known, as well known, that the Sahrawis have lived in refugee camps for decades. Es verdad, Limam, ¿no? Los Sahraoui han vivido en los campamentos desde no sé cuántas décadas, ¿no?
Sí. Hay que diferenciar dos cosas que y en el vídeo que puso Moulud, el viernes, es la jaima de la ayuda, de la solidaridad, del exilio, ¿no? Entonces, nosotros los saharauis como nómadas siempre hemos construido nuestra propia jaima, y es mejor, de mejor calidad, y está en sintonía con el medio ambiente. Y la otra jaima, curiosamente, es de ayuda humanitaria y es muy distinta, pero también la hemos adaptado. Y los saharauis siempre hemos vivido en jaimas, pero la guerra nos ha obligado a vivir en las jaimas modernas, de campamento a campamento.
Ekiwah, can you translate?
Yeah, it's sure, of course. 1 second. That we have to differentiate between and Limam, dime si algo me faltó en la traducción, ahorita voy.
Vale.
we have to differentiate between the old haima and our constructions, sheepskin and camel hides, and this tent where we gather in solidarity with each other. That's also a haima.
Eran las jaimas que nosotros hacíamos y no necesitábamos ayuda para hacerla, la antigua.
And the haimas that we made with our own hands, if we didn't need help to make it, and that was in harmony with nature, that's the old ancient haimas. But wars have forced us to move from camp to camp without being able to build our own haimas. O sea que puedes repetir esa parte de las guerras y que
y la otra jaima es la jaima de la ayuda que nos ha dado Naciones Unidas. Es la ayuda del pobre que ha sido expulsado por la guerra.
And the other haima is the help of the poor that have been expelled by war and must seek refuge in one of those tents.
Que la guerra, nosotros antes de la guerra teníamos nuestra propia jaima y teníamos nuestra vida hecha por nosotros.
Before the war, we had our own haimas and life made for us. And now we move from tent to tent.
Y la guerra lo que ha traído es que nos ha metido en una cárcel de un campamento, nos dan ayuda humanitaria, comida y una jaima que no hemos hecho nosotros.
War has forced us to go into camps and to go into places where they give us food, but we haven't made our own haimas.
Thank you. Muchas gracias, Limam.
Nada, gracias. Okay.
Cosas que no saben, la gente no saben estas cosas. So, any other comments or questions?
Jordan has his hand up. Did
Jordan.
you have?
Yes, hello, once again. Yes, particularly, not a question, but just a comment. I just wanted to comment on the fact that, you see, the first time we were given the theme of light, there is a way how you approach it and you think about it, and you want to write about it in a relatable way as a poet, but then also not just on the face of it literally, but you want to approach it with creativity, but also with relatability. Now, with what I have noted today, light is wide, just like any gathering of creatives. Now, with this gathering of poets, I have seen light being casted in so many angles, and from this I can still see that there are still more angles, so through which we can see light. I've been reading in the chat, and Maggie just stated that the absence of light, which is darkness, also causes there to be rest. So the presence of light, yes. So the presence of light is not only positive, but it can also be negative, because you can't rest when there's light. You want to work, you want to do all your duties, but then you can't rest, and yet rest is also needed, you know? Then there is something else, I think, I'm not sure if it was Maggie or someone else in the chat who said, how about the light of death? So you see how now we have a paradox, because with light, most of us interpret light to mean hope, to mean birth and life. But then when someone says the light of death, wow, now that causes you to step back and think, wow, how could light be cast in such an angle? How do I get deeper into that thought wavelength, so that I can get light out as you know, as the light of death? What does that even mean? You know, so to pull it out. And I've been listening to poetry. I love the poetry from Liam about the Haima, and then also from Julie, and then also from Mercy. It's just been wonderful. I am very excited, and it's as I think it was Andrea said in the beginning, that we're going to be going all around the world from north to south and turning the map upside down. This is what has happened, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
It's not over yet.
No.
True.
Thank you, Jordan. There's also the light of your smile.
Thank you.
I just wanted to,
yeah.
I want to just pop in a quick question. Yeah, I'll just make it quick. Thanks. It's been overwhelming. It's been great. It's so much to think about. I just wanted to ask Julie how much. I'm just paying attention to how much cultural references are important to you, apparently, in your poems. Thinking about the line with the Bowier, I think you made reference to a famous author somewhere there as well, but also these local myths, which you just bring to life in a wonderful way. And I just wondered how much you see your work as an act of translation, and how much translation just as a practice guides your work. Is it are you thinking about that consciously or actively?
Yes, thank you so much, Jason, for asking such interesting questions. As I explained in the introduction, I lived in 4 different countries, actually several times back and forth: Italy, France, Ireland, Britain, and the Basque country. Even if it's part of France, it's still very different. So I don't know if it's conscious or not, but I love writing about cultural differences, languages, and maybe, yes, I'm trying with my poetry to, I don't like it's already used all the time to explain what translation is all about, building bridges between cultures. Definitely, I try, maybe I explain sometimes a little bit because I want my readers to understand I'm talking about another culture or a musician or whatever. So I guess, yeah, it's really important to me for sure as a human being, first of all, differences of cultures and languages and respecting them and being more open-minded about them, accepting the other. But so I hope I'm doing what you're saying. It's a kind of mission, definitely. But thank you for asking.
Great, thank you very much, Jason. Thank you, Julie. Should we take a break now, Mike?
I think so. Yeah. Well, let's give it 10 minutes to stretch and recover our legs, and then we'll meet again at what sort of about 17 minutes past.
Yes.
Janet, sorry, Linda, did you have your hand up?
Oh, sorry, Linda had her hand up.
Carry on, Linda.
Yeah, I did. Janet, when I throw out, a light as a suggestion for this, I didn't realize, dive into the theme. It's just a general observation. When I'm writing about light, I almost like treat light as evidence of faith. Light is also grace. It's like a sliver of reading so far. In Julie's, the poem about your grandfather and seeking that passage through the mountains and having being stopped by the German soldiers, it just struck that was a moment of that was light appearing as grace. It was like a moment of grace, right? An ease in the hardship, the difficulty, the darkness, and this is I just feel that it's coming out in a lot of the pieces, and in Jordan's as well. I just wanted to say something about the rhythm as light, or light as rhythm, Jordan. That really struck me because that poem about the domestic abuse was presented almost in the voice of, as you say, the counselor, and it had a rhythm, it had a pace, and it's like he was listening to both sides. And I felt that rhythm itself to me struck me as a source of light. I just wanted to say that, and just everything so far, the visual images, everything so far. I just, yes, I'm just here for the poetry, and I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and I'm really sorry I didn't notice your hand earlier. So if we take a break now till, let's say, 20 past?
20 past, yeah.
Yeah. So don't go away, just go and get a drink and come back. See you later.
Or chat, we can stay and chat if you want.
Yeah, exactly.
So Ekiwah, thank you for translating. You jumped in, that was wonderful.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Gracias a ustedes.
Bueno.
Yeah. Mike, I was just thinking it's great that we've got a minority of white people here.
So it seems, yeah, wonderful.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, but such talent. I mean, wow.
It's extraordinary, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, sorry, I'll just put the video on. Yeah, you can see Diane. Diane's staying with us.
Yes, hi, Mike.
It's just amazing.
Hi.
Wonderful, isn't it? This is the third one we've run, isn't it? And it's just the quality of the poetry is amazing, and just
Isn't it?
the imagery that all of them have been all the poets have been evoking. Beautiful, yeah.
And it was so great to see Mercy's village.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask Limam, dime, ¿comprendes algo de la conversación o no mucho? Limam. Maybe he's not there.
Yeah.
¿Comprendes algo de la conversación?
Oh, okay. How come I'm on there? Oh, because I'm. Oh, okay. Right, okay. No, I'll have that. Sorry, I'll just mute. Hi, Mike. I'm back.
Okay, that's great. I'm just having a message with Limam.
Okay. Oh, Jason did. Oh, is that, maybe that's a legacy hand. Jason's got up.
Okay. So Amita, are you ready to go? Where's Amita? Hi, Amita. I'm not sure.
Hi, I'm here, and I think you have to present it from your end. Andrea will help you, Mike.
Yeah, we have the video, and
I'm here now. Yes, I just got in.
Andrea, you just got in. Oh, right, great. Andrea is going to share it.
Thank you. Is it now my turn?
It is your turn.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hi, Amita. Lovely to see you.
Hey.
Are we ready to go, or are we going to wait for a minute for people?
I think we should probably go.
Right.
Hello, everybody. This is Amita from Muscat. Hello, friends at Leeds. I'm so happy today to present my poetry. I'm in a beautiful cafe called Mama's in Muscat Hills. It has a wonderful play of light, and I thought there can't be a better place than Mama's to do my video. It's surrounded by hills. It's a bright and sunny day. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Mike, for this wonderful opportunity. And light is my favorite topic. The theme made me think, is it just the light of the sun or the light within? And my poetry today is about the light within, especially because I just saw today's headlines where Bob Mortimer says depression is in every artery, in every vein, and in every cell. This depression is even more so after the pandemic, the loneliness, the lockdowns, and now recently, Oman has seen the Shaheen cyclone. At such a time, I'm thankful to have the theme as light. I'll now begin my poems, and I hope you enjoy them. The theme in every poem is light, but without darkness, where's the appreciation for light. So, looking into the duality of life, where good, bad, happiness, sadness, darkness and light coexist, let me put forth my ideas poetically. My first poem, Dark. Dark is dressed up light. Dark is enveloped light. Dark is shadowed light. Dark is hiding light. Dark is the other side of light. Thank you. My second poem, I like dark. It is deep, calm, quiet, silent. I like dark, somber, still, serene, shy, black. The sky too adorns it. The sparkling stars bejewel it. I like dark. Thank you. Since we are in a coffee place and I just love coffee, here's one to coffee. Dark coffee, lighter moments. I'm going to look at the theme light in two ways here, light and heavy, darkness and light. I hope you enjoy this one. Not all days are a sunny carrot orange. On such days, coffee with cream fixes my heart that is too full and has to stop feeling overwhelmed. And the mind is too still and has to start thinking fresh. On such pale days, I prefer coffee with cream. The aroma and the warmth quietly work their way through the cobwebs of uncertainties of life, piling up on my heart, wiping each tear of mine so heavy. The burdens of carcasses of disillusionments made bearable with each sip of coffee. I have borrowed some courage, got so much clarity, and ideas have lit up in me. I have drunk some hope from my cup, borrowed some light from it. Some moments are angry reds, so I need another concoction of coffee, loaded with white cream, a bit too sweet for the rest. A very sweet coffee is the best, while life throws me out of balance. And here, with my cup, I pamper me, pinking my oh so chilly red day. Coffee is black espresso, pure, distilled, dark, and hot enough to burn the tongue roof on days when stimulation to live on is sipped drop by drop. Coffee is my darling, frothy and ice cold when I'm warmed by joy. My signature coffee dashed with cocoa. That's my very own voice. In it, I chuckle, chocolate full. My light shines through bright. In all its shades and flavors, Chennai filter coffee is strong, not light. The prize winner, my ultimate savior, my mood swinger, my light bringer, my extra creamy, hot and best soul sweetener. Thank you. Here comes the next one. I'm sure you're having your coffee right now, yeah? Number 7. If darkness is the absence of light, then how can I coexist without both? Darkness is nothing but absence of awareness, awareness of a light within. Light I am, light I am, ever expanding, aware I am light, whose rays love dark and dissolve the dark. Thank you. Another short one. Dark dissolves when light appears, dark disappears. The limitless dark holds me. I love dark. I, the limitless spark. Thank you. The next one is a little different because I started thinking of home. I started thinking of what is it that we look for when we are hunting and seeking a shelter. One of the things that I would definitely think of is how well lit is my home? How much natural light does it have? I have played upon the theme of light, the idea of light here, and I have asked many questions through this poem. I seek a home. I seek a home to shelter my freedom. Slices of thoughts weigh on my mind's scales. Where would I find a shelter to keep safe and secure my thoughts, my only true belongings? Where would I find a place, call it home, for sheltering my voice from censor, from disapproval? Where mere four walls define not a home, slices of thought, my decision oscillates. I'm so indecisive, sandwiched between London, Sydney, Mumbai, or California, Vancouver, Miami. What nation will have me? Or should I seek slices beyond and further, seeking solace, a place, a home elsewhere, where worries and insecurities chase not, where my daughter, like a sunflower bud, unveils, unfolds herself, free from dogma, free from fear, free of self-doubts, free of face creams to unbrown. Slices of thoughts, vapory, wafer thin, undrop and are held as a quest in my third eye. Where do we find a well-lit home, sparkling in self-celebration, well-lit with logic, built in a love-filled, welcoming, wall-less neighborhood? A sunny, warm home that opens its arms and hugs us. Thank you. This one is very special to me. It means a lot to me personally. Here I go with one more poem. Questionable inequities of karma. Quietly I fight. I struggle to recover my balance, rediscover my strength, my might. A mug of dark gold over-sugared coffee, so creamy, so hot. I stir and blend in thoughts entwined, cup to lip, sip by sip, healing me, helping me unwind. Coffee holds me tight, decluttering my mind, unclouding me, and I find within my light, my balance, my insight. Coffee brings back all my bright. Thank you. This was a book, an anthology that I edited this year, and the last poem is from this anthology, Impressions and Expressions. To live is to be free of the previousness and meet the moment in tabula rasa, neither burdening the new with her previous, nor prefixing positive or negative onto the fresh moment. Positivity too weighs you down because of high expectation and the bated breath of anticipation. Loading the moment with hope is choosing being vulnerable, being crushable. To be truly alive, shrug off all excessive thinking. Choose being unassuming, in the moment, thrive. Choose awakening, being enduring, being endearing, enlightened and light, unburdened and bright. Thank you so much. Thank you once again for listening patiently. I hope the poems reached your heart too. Thank you from Muscat, Momas. Come for a coffee cup here with me. Bye.
Thank you, Amita. Thank you, Amita. That was great. So now, moving on, we have Juan DelGado, Ekiwah Libelandes. Juan is a visual artist, Spanish, based in London, and Ekiwah, a poet based in Mexico, and they've been collaborating. So we're going to find out something about their collaboration. So welcome.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Juan DelGado. I'm very pleased to introduce the project I've been doing with the wonderful poet from Mexico, Ekiwah. This is a project that was supported by the British Council on a micro commission for international collaboration between two artists across the border. I didn't know Ekiwah when I contacted him. And I was really driven by, something that we've been talking about, is light. The light of, connecting with somebody on the other side of the ocean. And trying to understand how in time of the pandemic, when for many of us, it's been very, very difficult and challenging time. Well, my background is moving image. I hope you can hear me well. Yeah? My background is moving image. I am a visual artist.
Yeah.
And when I met with Ekiwah, I came with a suggestion. I knew and I read his poetry, and I have something to suggest it to him. And I said the collaboration will be inspired by the Japanese style poetry of haiku, and he will tell you more about it. So my suggestion would be that living in London, having my own experience of lockdown, of not being able to move, but also learning and engaging with my own condition of being disabled, I'm having not access to some other things that other artists with no disability might have. So the level of invisibility was something that I also wanted to explore with him. So we use a little bird, which is a very brave bird that flies every year from the South African continent. Namibia, South Africa, this little bird, that is the swallows, fly across border and come to spend the summer with the people who live in the north. That was a metaphor that we wanted to explore together across border, across the ocean. So the swallows return early this summer is the project that we started working on in June this year. So I'm going to share my screen now. The swallows return early this summer. For this project, we decided to challenge our creativity and use something that is not really regarded as a creative or artistic platform. We're talking of Instagram. So Instagram, it became a channel that many of us and many young people are using to express themselves. We wanted to challenge this channel, this platform, and see how much creativity we could put into this and how we could engage with an audience that is every 5-10 minutes are clicking and taking selfies of places, people, experience they have. So we wanted to use Instagram in a very unusual way. So the swallows return early this summer was this dialogue, a creative dialogue, in which every week I would take 3 photographs in London, and sometimes I had to find my way to follow where the swallows are in the UK. And that's the reason I traveled to Leeds, and I met Mike, and I met some of the swallows that we don't see in London anymore. So I will be taking photographs, 3 photographs, and then Ekiwah will respond with a haiku. So this is the beauty of this project. I'm scrolling now, and I hope that you can see properly. So I'm going to hand it to Ekiwah now, so he can share with us the haikus that we publish on Instagram. Ekiwah, is you there?
Yes, I'm here. It's such a pleasure to be with so many poets from such distinct places gathering together. Thank you very much to all the organizers. And once we get a tent like this going, like the danger of getting a, what is the word? Hanan, like a giant tent of poetry, is once we get that going, we might not step out. We might remain there for a very long time. Juan, I don't know if you want to say a little bit more about your beautiful photographs. I would at least like to hear a little more maybe from you, because I love your photographs so much. So,
well, the collaboration with you, I'm thinking of where you are based in this beautiful small town 1 hour south from Mexico City, Amatlan, a place, a magical place, full of swallows, and how being in London is really and connected with you. I'm thinking how I can share with you images of the city where I live, a city that unfortunately can see the population of bees, the population of birds declining, and how I could engage with this preoccupation, my own preoccupation as a photographer or visual artist, with ideas of migration, identity, and climate change. How from this massive metropolitan city, which London is, I could share with you, on a weekly basis, photograph of places that are maybe familiar to me, but I wanted to share that with you. So sometimes, because of the lockdown, I had to go into my photographic archive, and some of the photographs that you see here are also part of my archive. So you see some of these photographs with my preoccupation with borders has been informing my work for a number of years. But also how, a statue near the British Parliament, a statue of, a man with wing, a human figure with wing, will somehow inspire me to think of swallows, the swallows that I don't see in London. So these are the photographs in which we had a beautiful collaborator as well, Deane, a graphic designer originally from Nepal, who also was contributing with her adding of swallows to some of the photographs that had no swallow on them. There's also a beautiful, really beautiful journey of thinking of light as well. Light, as Amita said, doesn't have any sense without darkness. And the way I think about darkness is ignorance. When we are ignorant of things, that event like this can bring a lot of light. The beauty of poetry, but the beauty of experiences of people who are living in other places, and how they are experiencing something that belongs to our beautiful and wonderful planet. So I think that's enough for me, and I will hand it to Ekiwah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Juan. One of the things that can happen when I get talking about poetry is that, and collaboration and these beautiful photographs, is that I start feeling this excitement rise, and when that happens, I lose track of time, but I want to make sure that I don't take away any time from the beautiful poets that we still have to listen to. So Mike can be my human alarm, if you don't mind. Well, one of our great inspirations for this whole project, as Juan DelGado mentioned,
You're muted, Ekiwah. Unmute.
Okay, sorry. So one of our great inspirations, as Juan DelGado mentioned, for this project is the poet Basho. And I'm not very good with time, but I understand he lived many, many years ago. And he developed a tradition where he would go walking into the mountain through the narrow roads of Japan in these very high, sometimes very high muddy places. And Basho was already around 60, 70 years old when he went through that long pilgrimage to the journey of the north. And in that time period, when you would go on foot in sandals with very little possessions, there was no guarantee that you would return with life. So, because you could slide off the mountain with mud, with winter, with cold. And so the act of walking was also a spiritual pilgrimage and a kind of sacrifice. And every time you would find something along the way, Basho would find something along the way, that would be the occasion for his haikus, which are 575 syllables. And so I want to begin the reading by reading a little bit of Basho's haikus in honor of this great person that has inspired us and that continues to communicate with us through his books. So the temple bell stops, but it keeps ringing inside the flowers. The temple bell stops, but it keeps ringing inside the flowers. I'm going to go to another one. And this one is one about light that Basho also wrote. How marvelous the man is who can see a lightning flash and not think life is short. How marvelous the man is who can see lightning flash and not think life is short. And one of the things about writing haikus is that it has a kind of similarity to the process of taking a photograph and working with light, because you don't have time to get caught up in your imagination. You just want to try to capture that particular moment in 3 lines, as you saw it, as you breathe, as you look right there. So now to the swallows that are in my house in Amatlan and that also crossed all the way to London in different forms. We can start with the small creatures seek asylum in the green light and harden the eyes of the predators in flight. Small creatures seek asylum in the green light and harden the eyes of predators in flight. And this poem began because Juan showed me a wonderful photograph of a bush, but I wasn't quite sure how I would relate to it. And then he said to me, I wanted to take the photograph of this urban bush from the perspective of a bird. And that's when I realized that I had this possibility of imagining that I was some sort of little bug inside the leaves and that this predator bird would come down and eat me, perhaps, just as we are also seeking asylum in the green light of nature in an ever more urban world. So who is the predator really? This next haiku is one looking at the actual nest of a swallow. I find it something that is so beautiful. it's sculpted. So sculpted earth, potter without hands, a swallow's nest. Sculpted earth, potter without hands, a swallow's nest. And what Juan and I were reflecting in the process of writing that through the photographs, and you can see that wonderful picture of the swallow's nest, is that that potter without hands could also be somebody with a disability, because I've seen with their eyes closed, really seeing the image in their imagination. And the potter without hands could also be that mystery that some of us choose to call nature and some of us choose to call God. And one more, speaking of the borders that unite all of us, that separate us, but that also have the possibility to be a source of unity. I'm just switching my screen a little bit so I can see you all better. 1 second.
So 2 more minutes, Ekiwah. We move on.
Yep. So these are the ones of borders. 1 sec. Flight. So many borders, but migrating swallows and people guide themselves by another map, the open and terrifying territory of the sky. So many borders, but migrating swallows and people guide themselves by another map, the open and terrifying territory of the sky. And then part of this process has been to be able to revise. So I played with alternate versions, and we're really fascinated by how these little swallows can be mirrors for what happens on land. Borders, hard lines, but immigrants and swallows follow another map, currents of heat, storms that blur the old clouds, wingtips sailing, fork light, the open and desolate country of the sky. We humans make hard lines, foolish marks on the wet sand. And one more little haiku to say goodbye to all of you. Your glance has turned my face into a translucent leaf where lights and shadows meet. Your glance has turned my face into a translucent leaf where lights and shadows meet. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, wow. Now, the home team, Jason, our Leeds poet, one of our many Leeds poets. But wow, Jason.
Let's see if I can share my screen. I think it is helpful. That was just extraordinary. Sorry, I've just lost track. I'm just lost. I can't remember what I'm supposed to. I'm just so absorbed in.
Don't worry, we have time.
What's being said.
Take a breath.
Okay. I'm going to read from a few different things. Let's start with an extract from a long poem in my next book of poems, called called Self-Portrait as Othello, and this is a long poem that's the long poem that starts it. So you might be, I think you're familiar with Mike in an earlier iteration. Okay, I think I found it. Okay, just share screen. Share screen. Okay, I think this is it. You see that now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is a long poem called Conditions of Migration. In Prague, a hot summer's day on the Charles Bridge, the river's demented blades of sunlight, a yellowness compelling me to jump. I split the air like a horse's stride. Moist legs of the morning emerge like islands on the surface of the sea. My desire beats like a thoroughbred. We hunted carnal pleasure, my friend and I agreed. It was a game of healing and transgression. Myself was lurking, ready to step out of the shade. I was the ultimate in black. My body swelled up till Kaya here, thick lips and broad nose filled the universe. As the waters came into me, myself emerged from Prague's river. Then the night swayed its hips into the heaven of a dance hall, rode up on clogs and heels with leather tights and legs like towers. My desires rose. Get up, I heard them speak into the darkness as the enigma of a woman passed my way, her thighs mantled in floral light, she danced. I could feel within her chest her presence. Going over, I said hello, then we kissed. It was a surprised command. It was screaming. It was Obia possessing her soul. The rest of the night, I was the ancient king laughing over the city. I was gable and arch. We danced all night. She took me home and I shuddered. I could believe it, laughing over my pain. This is another extract from that long poem. On the Ponte di Rialto, I watch myself glide on distances of times and seas. Rialto shivers like the lagoon's contours. Like the dream of marble in my veins, waves gliding to the distant country and back to this bridge. To the country where I first learned the name Rialto through Shakespeare, taught in a Jamaican tongue. Where I let it ring, echo, and disappear into time. Now I come and find it real. La Serenissima. My senses soar like the flame in Bellini's reds, like the curling flames of Tiziano and Giorgione, Tiepolo and Tintoretto. The light over the Canal Grande, il paese che un dì sognai, già lungo tempo lo cercai. Between houses whose walls never tire of the water's tongue, of the dancing mist, rapimento, of spinning skirts, the air filled with mosaics, tesserae of dreams, how they move. Marvel might have been a fantasy to fill me, feeding on its lack, the missing columns and steles. More than mystique or subtle envy, words come like multitudes on the waves, thronging the city around whose corners the mind turns endlessly, never tiring, each lapping of the lagoon's tongue a page. I seek no reason but discovery. Tessera dei miei sogni. This next poem is called, so that's, this is a different terrain. These are some poems. And I should have asked actually whether this was going to be shared online, because some of these poems are under contract and I actually can't share them before they're published.
I think they will be, it will be made available. So maybe if you want to sort of take the screen away, it's up to you.
Could I just, what I could do is stop recording now and then start again.
Yeah, if you don't mind. Yeah.
So can you tell me when to start recording again?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So pause it, Janet, don't stop it.
Yeah, pause. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to read a poem from my recently published book called Thinking with Trees. Well, I'll read a few poems from it. Thinking with Trees, recently published with carcanet press. Naming. This is a poem called Naming, and I guess it chimes quite well with the poems about the birds, the swallows. Naming. 1. In the wood I hear the beautiful call of a bird I do not know. I wish I knew the names of birds and could identify them by their songs. It would be so much nicer to say I heard the warble of a wood pigeon as the red floor of the woodland stretched before me like an avenue through the high rises of beeches and oaks. As I walk on the path and feel the soft cushion, feel my foot press down into the flesh of the duff, because the name is reassurance, a comfort in the flesh to hold these songs in the trees, so something could be mine. Warble, trill, bell, fluting, something nearly right. 2, the urge I feel is to give things names, but everything is already named. The urge I feel is to connect with this land, these plants, birds, songs, these trees. To name things would be perverse. Perhaps the place within will always escape the name. In the mind, one leaves, and leaves, but on stone, earth, and grass, one stays forever. I have a few trees on my tongue, oak, maple, birch. I have a few birds on my tongue, seagull, mallard, redbreast. I have a few plants on my tongue, rhododendron, English ivy, iris. I have started to see that nothing is itself. Everything turns to something else, like birch bark becoming veste de loup. I prefer the sound of my wife's ancestors, the ashes of their throat, like the rhododendron barks becoming fighting pythons, and me gathering chestnuts for dinner in a stream that dips below ground and re-emerges often. This life I no longer know. 3, when I go walking in Limam, there's still that part of me that didn't want to come, that doesn't want to be in this land of Carrymore jackets. All I can handle is nature on the fingernails, my grandmother planting Negro yams, shaping the land. All I can handle is the landscape within me, not scenery spread out on a canvas. This next poem definitely has direct reference to light in it, I think, anyway, if I remember it correctly. It's a short poem called Rhododendrons. This is the wood of snakes, the heads fighting in a primordial dance, the wet barks fuse, forming knots. I see a monster. Actually, what? There is something else speaking, a deeper thing about me. They know more about rhythms and dances, about what they have been, about the burly beach towering above me, parading its fire. Because it's, somebody shared this poem with me the other day, reminding me of what season it is, and the season in which is around now when I wrote this poem. It's just called autumn, and it's definitely about light as well. Autumn, I enter, peel off the skin of my living room. It is October, and the light that falls on the leaves rises again in a swell, while the red floor of the woodland stretches like an avenue through high maples and oaks. I press down into the leaves and wonder how many seasons lie here beneath my feet. Here, there is no enclosure, only cells making sounds on a frequency so low in a world distant from words, unpossessed and full. How much time do I have left? I should probably stop and say something about the poems now.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah. So I'm not always articulate about these poems, but the first one is about, the first one, as I said, is from a book. It's from my next book of poems. And it's about migration, and there's a sense of journeys, right? Because it is about that sense of space, of how to inhabit space, both in terms of the dual space of, where one is from, and the space that where one, currently is navigating Europe and all of that. And there are also other narratives, and there's a sort of an underlying narrative of the quest for the father, of the absent father, and of that sort of being a kind of constitutive impossibility of some sort, but as something sort of a horizon of light that's both sought after and impossible at the same time. I don't know, something in that metaphors there of aspiring to light and to breath. I think those two are connected anyway. So there's that. And then the second set that I read two poems that are from a phase that I've been in, and I think I'm no longer in it, writing about landscapes and nature, and being called a nature poet and eco poet and what have you, because I think I had to. I think there was something pressing on me to do that. And writing about that, one often obviously thinks about light and the sort of enclosures that we've been in, that we've experienced over the last two years. Sort of entrapment, coming out and going into the woods often represents an opening up of the windows, a sort of letting the light in. So if anything, that idea operates on that level. But there's a lot of light in the book, Thinking with Trees. There's a lot of poems that think about light and shadows and that sort of thing. And then, yeah, I suppose that's it. And perhaps if I have any time left, I could read two more poems to close out. But if my time is up, I'd understand that as well.
Let's have one more poem, Jason. That'd be great, and then we'll move on. If you've got one more, that'd be lovely.
Okay, I'll read a short one. It's called Chocho Walks. Well, actually, it's not that short. So I'll read a poem that's actually very, very short. It's called okay. I'll read a poem called Right Now I'm Standing. Coming up. Sorry. Got you. Okay. Right now I'm standing. Beneath what used to be, I imagine, an impressive tree. Split down its bole, it has sprouted green leaves that will be rustling way into September. At its base, lying athwart the clearing, is the severed part. The color of brown has weathered to near gray, and the footfall of walkers has covered the wood with a layer of dust, and yet the part that has fallen among the spikenard and hungry shrubs surges out of death. The raspberries feed on its breath, and beetles thrive in the slurry middle where the bowl rots. Listen, there is nothing as exhilarating as the feeling of life coming into you. Though people look suspiciously, stand and listen. Do not go anywhere. We have been the workers, just the workers. In the Congo, one man had a land almost 80 times the size of Belgium as his estate. We have been property. When I talk about reclaiming time, I'm just thinking about my body standing in the middle of this woodland and doing nothing. Nothing. Thank you for
Wonderful.
your attention.
So now, still in the ambit of the Caribbean, we're going to the land of Edward Campbell Brathwaite to visit Linda M. Deane. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you. Hi. Just simply amazing, Jason. There's, you know, five hours away, but still. I have a video that's
coming.
Yeah, it should be coming up.
Hi, my name is Linda M. Deane. I'm a poet, an essayist, an editor, and a children's writer, also known as the summer storyteller. I was born in England. I live and create in Barbados. Observation of light and other elements of nature feed my storytelling, be it about home, love, longing, or migration. Through shutters half-drawn he filtered, a pale cantata to end all sleep and sleeplessness, and frenzied all-nighters. Watch him tease away the veils, strip them sotto voce, like darkness by degrees from chapel house rooftops and palm trees. The land reclaiming, if not its lie, then the familiar half-truth of its topography. She'll open to him, of course, tilting as sunflowers do, helpless, wide, to full-throated chorus of heat and light. Today, the rain does not fall in fat, warming spheres, does not tumble from the sky like a generous hipped woman or her big-bottomed sisters, does not bounce you hard or threaten to wash you away, does not quarrel for just an hour or two, enough to quench your parched earth, its thirsting mango or high-maintenance lime, does not fall in a manner that commands the starve-out croton and savannah grass to sit up and take note, does not upstage the sun briefly in its heavens before bowing out pretty. Today, it is a pallid blanket, wringing itself uneasy and unceasing. Growing up under northern skies, there was rain like this, a thin, grey-suited miser cloned to the nth degree in free-falling monotony. It's raining would come the sigh, or the empty resignation, and it would be, again, a sign to pull curtains on the day. But not here, not supposed to happen where light sways all it sees in a golden stream, and where, even if it falls all day, bringing with it a kind of blue, there is no gloom, no cast iron penny pinching grey, never grey, just blessings each time your lover says, rain's falling. This next poem is inspired by the sight of the rain falling while the sun is shining. A shock of sunlight through afternoon rain showers diamonds, crystal shards, a broken brilliance of glass. The hot tar glistens, and the sparrow's eye gleams at water dappling in the palm of a fallen breadfruit leaf. Light pools filtered through the silhouetted almond tree, branches, leaves, drool night rain onto a weary worker's brow. Street lamp serves no purpose here. Dull amber is fool's glow and only dims the way. This other source elevates head and leaden feet? Did some unseen, all-seeing force just flip and switch the sky to liquid crystalline, so that instead of puddled concrete, she might alight onto a pock-marked moon, splashed there, right there on the step, bright, so bright your trick of eye, playing upon the host of shapes and shadows shifting tonight. Blue-gray, aka light switch, springs from a collection examining migration, memory, and my mother's journey into Alzheimer's. A full 5 years apart, they checked the box marked blue for bury me under blue sky, with the cane sugar light shimmering, a flaming peppered sauce, a honeyed golden guava jellied, a fifth of rum for Lernand, and held up to the sun. Cheers. They signed the paper, here and here, and set out for old mother country's golden opportunity of grey, gunmetal, slate, pale, uniform, standard issue, Arctic, cloud, and battleship against a swatch of distant sun. 4,000 miles away, on rainy Manchester's welcome mat they meet, conspire to be each other's sweet, new sunlit home from home for the next 50 years or so, until they recall the papers signed, the light switch in their heads, the swatch of colours, the box marked blue, for sky and bury me under, a box that's ticked and ticking. I have very bad eyesight, and I find that I see things generally not as they are. And while it can be alarming at times, I do get some fascinating ideas for poems. Okay. This is called The Blues Differently, and it's from a collection that imagines the blues as protectors, right? As a guiding force, almost like a guardian angel. Right? Night brings solitude. Purple heart louvers thrown wide, but the breeze finds no salt water upon my lips. Miles, uppermost layer in a day of heat and motion, gives way to the new coolness. But he's there still, sketching lament to the improvised rhythm of timber sighing and swaying after the day's swelter, and to the call of young men and dominoes on the street corner. From across the road, the fixed street lamp, the one that used to flick on, off with neon frenzy, spills its fluorescence over the tangled vine of passion fruit that frames the front porch. Amber cascades into woodwork, and the doorstep flows like a burnished river, a sultry first prize, and for a moment the glister beguiles, like last night. And you, crashing the party, sending sound and light, skidding, slamming to the background, leaving only a solitary glow and a pulse somewhere racing. You flashed cool brilliance, and we shared a moment, lips parted in half smile, eyebrows arched to appease the discreet drinking in from head to toe, and a careless brush of fingers upon sleeves, but only for a moment, see, for you were not alone. And noting this, we let the moment go, cold calm down upon our heads, into skin, nerve, gut, and bone, summoned back the bright faces, chink of wine glass and painted conversation, bade them reclaim foreground, and there was blood. It could be heard flowing in our veins, and there was song. It could be heard, the pierced notes, the dazzling imperfection, blowing in from a far-off place. Tonight, there is no salt water for the wind to chill. I could marvel at its absence, at the spill of amber on purple heart, at beauty upstaging sorrow where it hides in layers, waiting. An automobile spits and roars past the open window, skids on the corner, adding to the shglam of curses and domino. But this is miles away. All that registers is the amber light and the distant horn.
So do you have a few comments to add, Linda, before we move on to our next reader? Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. I just hope that everybody could hear. My daughter filmed that for me at 3 o'clock in the morning when it was like, we hoped it was quiet. Like, so after curfew, it was quieter on the street. I live on a very noisy street, but we didn't realize that the dogs and the cock-a-doodle-doos and the crickets were there behind me. So I just hope that everybody could hear that. Just going back to, you know, what I'd said earlier, that I realized in putting these poems together for this session is that, I realized that I'm dealing with faith, light as faith, the comparisons between light in this hemisphere in the Caribbean and the light that I experienced living in England and elsewhere. And also one of the poems, the light switch poem, I realized was reimagining the immigration forms that my parents might have had to sign when they left Barbados for England in the 1950s. I simply reimagined the form and said, well, what if you did, you've got to choose what kind of sky you want to, you know, live your final days out under. And that has sparked some other ideas for me, what light means, qualities of light, different kinds of light. Some of the poems are straight up observations of nature. I smiled, my heart was just warmed when we were listening to Juan and Ekiwah's exploration of those images of swallows and of haiku, because one of my pieces, the one about the rain, the one that showed the visual of the rain, started life off as a haiku, but it wouldn't behave, right? So I just, oh, what the hell, just let it go and be what it wants to be. But I do write haiku, and I really appreciated what you guys did with the Instagram images and words of those swallows. So yes.
Thank you, Linda.
I just hope that everybody could hear.
Thank you. So now we're on the last stage of our journey. We're coming into land, probably East Midlands Airport. We're going to visit Roger Bloor.
Hello there, and superb session this has been. I've got 5 short poems I want to share, and they're mainly based here in Staffordshire, the home of the pottery industry and the mining industry, and explore the way that the concept of light become embedded in many cultures, spirituality, religion, folklore, and mythology, and particularly within this culture that I come from, which is the mining industry and the industrial industry. So I'll just share my screen, hopefully. There we go. So the use of light in religious ceremonies is almost universal, and one of the oldest examples I think we know of a religious ceremony that involved light was found in a cave in Germany, where they found a 40,000-year-old ivory carving of a lion man, which had been hidden at the back of the cave, and then there was evidence of fires being lit to worship this lion man cave. The same thing happens here, not quite as exotic as Germany, but we have a thing called Lud's Cave, which is a a natural ravine not far from here, which is 18 meters deep and 100 meters long, and lets virtually no light in at all. And there's evidence of that being used for pagan worship, to worship the Celtic god Luga, which is probably, may well be where the name Lud's Church is from. So this is written to try and, in an imagined, very primitive sort of language of the time of the Lion Man, or of the pagan worship of Lud's Cave. The Lion Man. Fire, flame rise, faster dark, small caver carries man. From many hands, no black sky end, no feast, no fire for carver cave. The carver carries carved, not man. The carver carries not carved man. Now flame and fire of not man God sees man and carver, flame cave fire. Make not man God on fire cave wall, and not man spirit, dark carved man. Keep fire and flame, keep not man God. Keep fire and flame, keep man not God. Soon tale told by hearth and heart, of now and next and now, of fire and flame, of not man blood, of not man fed on killing flesh. Pass hand to hand and hold the past, pass hand to hand and hold the next. The not man sees, the not man sees, not man sees man who sees not man, and dark within the carver cave. No fire, no flame, no man, a god, an empty cave, a lion head, a man beneath a mammoth tusk. Now, Lud's Cave was also used for many things, but at the solstice, the cave, the Lud's Cave, Lud's Church floods with light, and it was used for many solstice ceremonies. In some cultures, places were built for that, but the worship of light, I think, is almost universal, and solstice worship is an important part of many cultures. So this is Solstice Song. On this hour of this day, in this season, at this place, which was built by our hands, which was built by our fathers' hands, which was built by their fathers' hands, where our child will sleep, where we will sleep, where our fathers sleep, where their fathers sleep. A light will come to this place. All who leave will leave with the memory of light, and all who stay will stay with the memory of light, and all the dead will live again in light. And I guess that's part of the essence of the solstice ceremony. It's worshipping the beauty of light, but also recalling and recollecting the dead who've passed on to a different sort of light, light as a destination we heard from earlier. These sort of pagan rituals carried on here in primitive North Staffordshire well into the 19th century. And they all they were in the main about the solstice, about Midsummer's Day, Midsummer's Eve, and about using light to ward off evil. And that's the theme of this next poem called The Sun Wheel. And it happened in many places, but the one most local to us and the one which seemed to carry on the longest was at a village called Bowier near Walsall. And there they constructed a massive wheel of straw and hemp, wheeled it up to the top of the hill, set fire to it, and ceremoniously rolled it back down the hill on fire. And the idea was that on Midsummer's Eve, all the witches held a witches' parliament on the moon and decided the fate of the next year, and that by frightening the witches with fire, that would dissuade them from bringing any evil on the village. But also because they were scared that the witches might get annoyed by the fire, they carried seeds in their pocket, which they felt rendered them invisible to witches. So they were sort of hedging their bets a little bit there. So this is the sun wheel. Take hemp and tow and blackest pitch for fear of spirit, imp or witch. Push the wheel up whirly bank, coming up, singe the tail of imp or witch, burn them in the deepest ditch. Take fern seed charms to keep you safe. What can't be seen will see no harm. Push the wheel down whirly bank, coming down, singe the tail of imp or witch, burn them in the deepest ditch. Take fire and torch to light your way till summer's eve has had its day. Push the wheel up Whirly Bank, coming up, coming up. Push the wheel down Whirly Bank, coming down, coming down. Between the rise and set of sun, let torches flame and bonfires burn until midsummer's eve is done and witches from the moon return. This idea of sunset, sunrise, and the time in between it, and the difference between light and darkness, is an important part, I think, of our mining community, of our now nearly defunct mining community, but where a lot of our folklore comes from. And here in North Staffordshire, there was an active mining community, and the majority of young men, certainly of working age, would expect automatically to go into the mining industry. They would finish their life, they would start their lives and end their lives in the mine. A few escaped from that because they had creative talents, and the local art school at Yeslem trained a lot of miners who became painters. They became good painters and successful painters, but quite often not always famous painters. But it must have been a strange experience for these artists to disappear into the darkness of the mine, not to take any light with them. And they had to take an imagined light with them. And they would, during the lunch breaks, paint on the coal face. And there's still paintings in disused mines on coal faces, on the wooden pit props, done by artists who were just trying to get back in touch with the light they'd lost by going underground. And one of those was William Bowier, who unfortunately has the epithet the most famous unknown painter, which I'm not quite sure whether that's true or not, but he was a very good painter. They say that even in the day, deep in the shaft at Sneed, look up towards the sky and you can see the stars. The only light down here, the light I bring, soon lost to charcoal heavy seams. With just a touch of titanium white across that Mars black face, I could see more stars than Yeslem ever dreamed. The issue of light in the mining industry is difficult. Clearly, if you're underground, then darkness is a deprivation of light. And it's a hazard because you can't see. But the remedy to that is to bring light into a mine, and light brings even greater hazards than the darkness. One stray spark, one unguarded lamp, on lighting explosive fumes will destroy the mine, and hundreds of miners were killed locally through that happening. That sort of idea of the evil nature of light is sort of embodied in local folklore in the form of an evil spirit called a boggart. And the boggart inhabits mines, and when it appears as a yellow glow and an evil smell, which mimics the sort of glow that happens with explosive fumes just before they explode, and the smell of these explosive fumes. That old folk story was hijacked by the Victorians and claimed to be the story of a headless woman whose ghost inhabited the canal tunnels at Harecastle, which is in Kidsgrove near us. And that's not true. The boggart is much older than the headless woman. This poem's in North Staffordshire dialect, so I've given you an English translation on the screen. And if there's anything you don't understand there, then please ask. The Kidsgrove boggart. If they seen a yedless woman, it wanna a boggart youth, they could smell a boggart miles away like gobstink down the seam. They could tell a boggart in the dark by the light of its yellow glow, like fire damp just before the flame has kilt thee down the pit. That kit crew boggart is what they reckon as lives down Kidsgrove cut. He's real enough, but you know that wench has lost her yed down there. Out kit crew's in the workings, waiting for the grind for shift, and once he's out, he's free for home until he's tasted death. So if they hearst him, sees or smells him, don't bother for run, because he's got your token in his hand, and they't already jed. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Wow. What a great session. So Janet, can I hand over to you to lead us into our Final discussion.
That was just absolutely, the whole session has been so extraordinary, and I feel so privileged to have witnessed such creativity. I'm almost speechless. It's just absolutely amazing. Various things came up in this part of the session. The thought of, well, we had the idea of light contrasting with dark, and light versus heavy earlier. We've also got the danger of the danger of light, that light isn't just something that is pure and wished for, but it also brings with it danger and evil. This came up a couple of times, but particularly with the boggart, this light as evil. And I suppose the light is, you want some light to be able to see, but you've got that danger, haven't you? And the explosions in the mines must be just horrendous. We've also got the idea of light being reflected on water, which has come up a few times, reflected on diamonds, reflected on crystal. Light being I think darkness was mentioned as the absence of light, and I was thinking, well, is light then the absence of darkness? And what's come up a few times is the light of connection. So the light of connection with Ekiwah and Juan, and the light of connection with Jason between UK and homeland and Jamaica, and the birds who are connecting without borders, without barriers, and are following some sort of light. And I was also thinking about beauty, and that light isn't necessarily beauty. What made some of those fantastic photographs that Juan did beautiful? It was a silhouette of the bird. It was a silhouette of the fence. We've just had so many different but connected. Everything, I think, is in some way connected. This great chayma of poetry around light. I just think it's extraordinary. I wanted to mention, I don't think Matt Howard is with us actually today, but I know that he wanted to be with us. The Swallows Returned Early this summer reminded me of a project that Matt he's a poetry fellow in the School of English at the moment at the University of Leeds, and he has a project around lines of migration, where he's wanting to pair up poets from the northern reach of migratory birds and the southern reach of migratory birds to produce poems around those birds. And I think he would have loved the presentation that Juan and Ekiwah did around the Swallows Returned Early this summer. And I'm sure he'd be very keen to watch the video recording of this session. Mike, do you have some more to add, and then we can throw open the floor?
I'm struck down. I've had such a great afternoon, but any comments or questions?
Yeah.
Final comments from the poets, the audience, everybody in the poetry tent.
Exactly, yeah. Jason, you have your hand up, but I'm not sure if it's a legacy hand or...
It's been up for several hours.
Oh, has it?
Yeah. This time my hand is raised.
Good.
I wanted to thank again Juan DelGado for the beautiful opportunity of the project, because one of the things that it's made me think of is how when we got this grant, it was all of a sudden I got this mysterious email of a friend, knowing a friend presenting me this photographer, and I said, okay, let's submit it. And Juan and I got to know each other through the actual process of working with each other online. And now in only 2 months' time, I consider him a dear friend and lifelong collaborator. And so one of the gifts that happens here, or that would be my hope, is that we are not just reading poetry, we're also gathering in friendship, which is part of the essence, it seems to me, of poetry itself and art itself. Thank you.
Yes, I agree. I think there's something about the pandemic. It's meant that we haven't been able to see people physically, but because of digital technology, because of Zoom, because of Teams, we've been able to see people from around the world in a way that we would never have been able to do earlier. You could hold international conferences, but now through Zoom, you can be at a conference in America, then in the Middle East, and then in Africa, then in Europe, somewhere in one day. And I think that is really great. And like the swallows, Zoom doesn't require you to have a passport to attend conferences and to attend workshops. And that for me is the connection is a light. Would anyone else like to say anything?
I just wanted to say a really big thank you to everybody. Completely brilliant again. But also I feel like I've been in a sort of poetry workshop because it's been really inspiring. I've been thinking lots about sort of abstract notions. I love the cheeky light and heavy, but also about think like about substance and substancelessness and these guys, the insubstantial and those kinds of things, and also just people's perspectives on light and dark and this old ideas about good and bad and good and evil, and that things develop in the darkness. I'm thinking about bread proving bread, and that things perish in the light, and all of these things, just the sort of tangential little sparks and things from the whole session, just to thank everyone, because interesting in and of themselves, but I've just been thinking so much about some of my own writing as well, so it's been great.
Thank you, Rob.
I just wanted to thank everyone, and I just wanted to say, because the theme was light, so many things came to my mind, especially serious and being light-hearted, and that caught on to my imagination, that how can you be light-hearted, because you want to definitely overcome to lighter. So that's when, I felt that the theme gave me so many opportunities, and listening to this wonderful poetry, the perspective of light has completely changed for me, especially the line that Jason had, the landscapes within, and the, I forget the next line. That was just beautiful, the landscape within and the pictures, or I don't know, Jason will tell me. That was brilliant. I just couldn't get over that. Beautiful. And so many. I'm sure I'll have to read all the poetry carefully. This whole thing happened. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, it's kind of touched on what I've, and thanks, Amita, you kind of touched on what I would say. I don't have anything more articulate to say than wow, really. So, I've just been thinking that I would love to have all the poems and the books here with me, so I can sort of immediately start the process of going back through the work, all the stuff that's been read, because it's just been so it's hard for the mind to kind of catch up with everything that's going on. So, but thank you for everyone I'm just appreciative of the discoveries, and the encounters. Thank you.
Yeah. One thing that I would really like is to be able to, if people could send their poems in written form to go over. Like Julie, your poems, there were times when I thought, please just stop on this poem for 5 minutes to let me fully appreciate it. But if it would be possible to share written forms of the poems that you read out, perhaps not the ones that are under contract, Jason, but other ones that you could share, I would certainly appreciate that, and I suspect that the whole group would. What do you think, Mike?
Absolutely. Maybe they could send them to you, Janet. And
actually, maybe they could send them to you, given that I'm supposed to be flying to Oman tomorrow.
Oh, well, send them to me, yeah. Any link, like a PDF or something, and then I can send them to the group, of course.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, thank you.
So I reckon this is probably time to say thank you to everybody. It's been a wonderful afternoon. It's completely lifted me several stories up into the stratosphere.
Yeah.
So yeah. Next time we'll come to Mexico. We'll bring the poetry to Mexico, Ekiwah. What about that? We'll come and see you in Amatlan.
You're on mute.
Muted.
You all come riding on swallows.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Riding on swallows. Perhaps that's the first line of a new poem.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great. So I've recorded the session. I hope it's okay. I did have internet issues early on, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'll send you all the link once it's finished uploading or whatever it does. Yeah, and then it will be posted on the Selkie website if you're all in agreement.
And Andrea has saved the chat, so we could just send the chat round. It's quite interesting sometimes to see the comments afterwards.
It was a really active chat. Yeah, I think it was brilliant to save that.
Good.
Great. Okay, right. Well, thank you very much, everyone.
I'm off to have a cup of coffee, Amita.
Yeah. Yeah, and hopefully see you all soon. We'll be in discussion about next events.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Nice to meet everybody.
Thank you, Rod.
You too,
Jason.
Bye.
Thank you, Ekiwah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks so
Linda.
much, Janet.
Thank you, Linda, for the thing. Bye.